Ego is not an internal necessity, it is a social reflex. When I say ego is not an internal necessity, it is a social reflex, I am pointing to something most people have never examined. Not intellectually, but existentially. The lie people believe. People believe ego is part of their nature. They think, without ego, I will be weak. Without ego, I cannot survive. Without ego, I will be nothing. But this is not truth. This is conditioning. Because if you observe closely, ego does not arise in solitude. It arises in the presence of others. Ego needs an audience. Sit alone in a quiet forest, no one to impress, no one to compete with, no one to prove anything to. Watch what happens. The need to be important disappears. The need to be respected disappears. The need to be seen as intelligent, attractive, successful, superior disappears. Why? Because ego needs witnesses. Ego is a performance, and performance requires an audience. Society trains the ego. From childhood, you were trained into it. Someone praised you. You are smarter than others. Someone compared you. Look at that boy, he's better than you. Someone insulted you. You will never become anything. And slowly the mind created a mechanism, a defense mechanism, a constant voice asking, how do I look? What do they think of me? Am I winning? Am I losing? Am I respected? Am I admired? This is not inner intelligence. This is social conditioning. Ego is a reflex. If someone insults you, immediately the mind reacts. Anger, defense, justification. You believe you choose that reaction, but you did not. It is automatic, like touching a hot stove. It is a reflex, a social reflex. Someone pressed a button, you react. Someone praises you, you feel bigger. Someone criticizes you, you feel smaller. Your emotional state becomes remote controlled by the world, and you call this self-respect. The man who sees through ego, a man who truly sees this phenomenon becomes dangerous because now he understands something profound. Ego is borrowed. It is not intrinsic to his being. Remove the audience and the actor disappears. Remove the comparison and superiority disappears. Remove the insult and the wound disappears. What remains is simple existence, silent and burdened. And that is where real power begins. Because the man who no longer lives through ego cannot be manipulated. You cannot flatter him. You cannot insult him. You cannot control him through praise or criticism. He becomes internally free. And a free man is the most threatening thing to a society built on validation. Ego is not something you need to survive. It is something you were trained to perform. The tragedy is that most people never realize this. They spend their entire life protecting an illusion that only exists in the eyes of others, and they call that their identity. So, ego is not natural, it is socially conditioned. Ego appears only when others are present. It survives through comparison, praise, and criticism. Most reactions of ego are automatic social reflexes. Ego turns your emotional state into something controlled by others. When ego dissolves, what remains is simple, silent existence. A person free from ego cannot be manipulated by validation or insult. Listen carefully. Ego is not an internal necessity. This is radical if you see it. Breathing doesn't need ego. Seeing doesn't need ego. Thinking doesn't need ego. Function doesn't need ego. Life works perfectly without a self-image. Ego adds nothing to function. It only adds commentary. Ego is a social reflex. A reflex is not chosen. It is conditioned. From childhood, praise, comparison, ranking, approval, correction in public. The nervous system learns, I exist through how I am seen. This becomes automatic, just like flinching at a loud sound. No morality, no failure, just firing. Let us go deeper, not philosophically, but mechanically. Ego adds nothing to function. Look carefully at the body. Your heart beats, your lung breathe, your eyes see, your brain processes information. Your muscles move. None of this requires a self-image. A surgeon performing surgery does not suddenly stop and ask, wait, what does my ego think about this incision? The hands move, the eyes see, the intelligence functions. Life is already extraordinarily competent without the psychological narrator. Ego does not improve function, it comments on function, like a sport commentator sitting above the field shouting about the game. The players are already playing. Ego is commentary. The ego says things like, I did well, I looked stupid, they respect me, they don't value me, I must prove myself. Notice something subtle. These thoughts do not help you see better, think better, or act better. They only help you evaluate yourself in the eyes of others, which means ego is not concerned with reality, it is concerned with reputation. The nervous system was trained. From childhood, the nervous system learns a very dangerous equation. Visibility is survival. When you were praised, good boy, the nervous system recorded. Approval is safety. When you were criticized in front of others, why can't you be like him? The nervous system recorded. Disapproval is danger. Over years, something subtle formed, a monitoring system. Your brain constantly scans. Am I respected? Am I admired? Am I being judged? Am I falling behind? This scanning becomes automatic, not philosophical, neurological. The reflex mechanism. A reflex means no thinking is involved. Doctor hits your knee, your legs kicks. You didn't decide it, the body fired. Ego works the same way. Someone insults you, the nervous system fires, tightening the chest, surge of heat, defensive thoughts, urge to retaliate. This happens in milliseconds. Before reasoning, before wisdom, before intelligence, just conditioning firing. Ego is not identity. This is the shocking part. Most people believe this reflects who they are, but it is no more you than a sneeze. It is just a learned neurological loop. Society presses buttons. The system reacts. Price, inflation. Criticism, contraction. Like a puppet string. Why this insight is radical? If ego were truly necessary, then children couldn't function without it. Animals couldn't function without it. Monks couldn't function without it. Athletes couldn't enter flow state without it. But we know something fascinating. In moments of peak performance, ego disappears. Artists lose themselves. Athletes lose themselves. Scientists lose themselves. Only pure function remains. This is why people say, I was completely absorbed. Absorption means ego temporarily shut down and performance improved. The social illusion. Society quietly encourages ego. Because ego is easy to control. A person who needs recognition, status, admiration, validation can be manipulated forever. But a person who functions without needing to be seen becomes unpredictable. He works because the work matters, not because someone is watching. Such a person is extremely rare. So, ego is not an internal organ. It is not part of your biological survival. It is a conditioned monitoring system built by society. It constantly asks, how am I appearing? But life itself asks a different question. What needs to be done? The first question produces anxiety. The second produces clarity. So, ego does not help biological or cognitive function. It only adds self-evaluation commentary. Ego is built through childhood social conditioning. The nervous system learns to equate approval with safety. Reactions of ego are automatic reflexes, not conscious choices. Peak performance often happens when ego temporarily disappears. A person free from ego works from clarity, not validation. So, ego is not a biological requirement of life. The body breathes without it. The eye sees without it. Intelligence can solve problems without it. Work can be done without it. What ego provides is not function. It provides psychological positioning. It constantly asks, where do I stand among others? Am I admired or ignored? Am I winning or losing? This inner movement did not arise naturally. It was installed through social conditioning. Years of comparison, praise, criticism, and public judgment train the nervous system to monitor how it appears to others. Over time, this monitoring became automatic. So when someone praises you, the system expands. When someone criticizes you, the system contracts. Not because you chose it, but because the nervous system learned the pattern. Seeing this clearly is radical because once you recognize ego as a conditioned reflex rather than your identity, something subtle begins to loosen. The commentary starts losing authority. And when the commentary quiets, something much more intelligent becomes visible. Life functioning directly without the burden of constantly defending an image.